Okay. Hello, and welcome to another iteration of Weeaboo Hell.
It's Weeaboo Hell.
I am Dennard Dayle, aka Blind Monkey.
I am Sam Lagow, aka Mute Monkey.
And man, most internet nicknames are gone. That's almost a relic of a bygone era. Huh?
I don't really know why we do it anymore. It kind of got grandfathered into the thing, I feel like.
Yeah, just from the old Seymour Evil a bit. Yeah, the source website of this is something that we've had for a while, actually. I did a lot of, like, Weeaboo comic bullshit before this.
This was from before college, I feel like. I think
late high school.
This is late high school. It's called Monkeys with Typewriters Once Upon a Time.
Oh, yeah, it's been Monkeys with Typewriters. I think it was called Anti-Monkey for like 6 months. I let my fucking advertising addicted friend throw his weight in.
The problem with Anti-Monkey is
it sounds like
I don't really need to explain the problem with Anti-Monkey.
I could even pivot if I wasn't extremely Jamaican in front of him, like I am just stealth in a forest. But that's not our point today. Our point today is two shows. I shouldn't say alike in dignity because we're gonna give them two very different scores at the end of this one.
Well, hold on. There was a whole motivation behind this episode that I feel that I must explain. Mm-hmm. So it occurred to me during the recording of the last couple of episodes that I find myself going off on modern trends in anime a whole lot, such to the point that I might feel like something of an anime Jim Cornette, a sort of the sort of type who thinks that everything that's happening now is terrible and everything that happened, before a certain date was awesome and cannot ever be replicated again. And I don't want to come off that particular way. So what we decided to do, Dennard, if you want to...
Oh, yeah. The effort here is we're going to look at two older shows to prove that rather than an old man yelling at a cloud, we've been yelling at clouds since we were infants, teenagers, preteens.
And sometimes we were right, and sometimes we were wrong. These are two shows that I made fun of in high school, or early college, or God, whenever the hell they came out.
I bantered on both of these, specifically in early college. I was a college freshman at Princeton gaining my undergrad certificate in drinking. And I was all over the map.
So you're older than me, so at the very least, late high school for me. But I feel as though they came out even earlier than that. But I could be wrong. It all feels very 2005.
It does. And the two programs here, which I caught in 2009, I don't know where that dates me. We are watching Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicles and Oran Host Club. And for those of you that are into gambling, either casually or professionally, or, I don't know, in order to get serotonin into your systems, before I start talking, feel free to place your bets on which one I liked and or disliked. I'll just give you that moment there. Roll the bones amongst yourselves.
Okay, you roll them yet? Because this is a pretty easy question right here.
So we're going to start with the phenomenal Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicles.
Just what a landmark series, Dennard. I feel like it changed me. It made me understand so many things about why things happen, why trends, the reason that, like, God, this is a fucking piece of shit.
I'm really glad.
Oh my God, this was impressively terrible.
I'm really glad that this show exists because, they say that, you evolve as you get older. Every cell in your body replaces itself every 10 years or so. I can't quote the exact number.
It's 7. Every 7 years, you're dealing with a completely new body.
With my completely new body, I can come back to this program, and it is as completely incomprehensible.
I don't feel any differently about it than I think I did before I... back when I prejudged it. But you know what? I was right about that prejudgment because having watched, 4 episodes now? 3 episodes now. It's like, so here's the thing. This is by Clamp, right? They created all the properties involved in Tsubasa. And for those unfamiliar, Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicle is basically this big crossover event.
They threw in a bunch of the popcorn seeds that they had grown up until this point, little kernels of corn. into the fucking machine and
Well,
stuck their hands in the machine. It just popped around their hands, little explosions.
Well,
of fire.
I wanna clarify, like Clamp and their works and what Clamp is. Like Clamp, as you may know or may not know, is this collective of a couple of artists who have created a number of manga. I want to say like a dozen or so, maybe a little bit more than a dozen. Manga over the course of the years
into doing a lot of character designs for different shows. A lot of stuff got adapted. They have a few. I don't know if it was a few original movies. I just know that for some reason the Showtime channel was addicted to running the movie X /1999, which is in the post-apocalyptic action film.
It was a manga first.
It was a manga first.
It was a manga first. Most of their stuff, they are manga artists, and their stuff gets adapted.
Now, if you are a contemporary weeb, and therefore, I don't know, brushing your head against the Lucia of the Rebirth or all that shit. Was it Rebirth or Resurrection? Whatever. Code Geass reboot. Clamp also did the character designs, not the story or anything, but the character designs for all the Code Geass folk.
I cannot believe that we've had that series for like more than 10 years now. It's kind of nuts.
It is weird to think of that as being retro. Like, what's it like being This must be like to be our parents and think, wait, Boogie Nights is an old film now. How long ago did Star Wars come out?
Woodstock was 50 years ago.
Where did these new pores come from? Just dotting my face. So yeah, the stains of time and Clamp.
And Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicle is their big Avengers Endgame. It's them kind of just incorporating all of the various different properties they have created because they own them. Why not? And turning into this big. I don't know. I can't really think of. Event is such a very 2019 word for it. Story. It's a big story where all of the universes that they created are involved in this story, and they hop around these universes.
All this anime stuff, there are secondary demographics, there are crossovers. I'm going to assume that at least 3 of you out there play video games. Do you remember the incomprehensible mush that was the subspace emissary in Super Smash Bros.?
I was gonna say this plays out kind of like Kingdom Hearts.
Kingdom Hearts has transitions, at least. This less so.
But the thing is that I have such a higher opinion of Subspace Emissary than I do of Kingdom Hearts as a franchise. It's that thing, remember from the last episode when we were talking about shit that you have to major in to understand it. Kingdom Hearts is
pure minutia core.
And this is definitely one of those things. So I want to say that it has a little bit more in common with Kingdom Hearts, and that are you a smark for Clamp shit? Cool, you'll get this. Maybe you might even enjoy it. Are you not? Fuck you. Go away. This isn't for you.
Thing is, I'm not sure. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong in my ever-expanding email folder, just full of the hatred of multiple generations. I'm not sure you could get a lot out of the show, even if you were a hyper Clamp head. At least I only have one entry point into this, other than that post-apocalyptic flick I saw way back when, which I only remember as a series of lasers and vague angst, so I can't really draw from X199 or however the fuck you say it.
I don't think it ever got an ending.
But as a latchkey child, that's great. That's fucking great. That's really great.
It's
But as a latchkey child, I did see a bunch of card character Sakura, because, I don't know, maybe I squinted at it and pretended it was Pokemon. US dub, Channel 11, all that shit, Northeast.
We didn't have streaming back in those days. It was hard, man. It was hard.
And what is so weird about this is that it builds as its foundation of this crossover the 2 fucking kids from, Card Captor Sakura, right?
Yeah. So, I'm just gonna never watched Card Captor Sakura or Card Captors, as I think it was called in the States. You've got this.
And what's weird was, they weren't great characters. They weren't deep characters. But they were individuals with adjectives and nouns you might describe them with.
They were human beings, at the very least.
One of them was plucky. One of them was stuck up. And now they are romance pairing B13.
It's interesting because, you watch this show, and we can kind of, I guess, get into the premise of it, because I feel like giving myself a headache sometimes. We can get into the premise of it, but the 2 main characters of this show are the 2 main characters, or 2 of the main characters, I don't know, I didn't watch it, of Card Captor Sakura, right? You've got Sakura, the main character, she who catches the cards, captures the cards.
She wants to be the very best. Between her and one other dude, I guess?
I'm sure she does. And then we've got Sauron, who is who was in that show her love interest. I think he was probably secondary. Was he a secondary or was he a main character? How in that
I mean,
was
like
he?
it's about like Mrs. Pink and he's, I don't know, the Lancer is the most equivalent. Like you want to fuck the Lancer, I guess. Like if just red and blue sort of stare at each other really powerfully for a while.
So we'll say that he was, like a mainish character.
And this show has some really strong fan fiction energy caked into it.
Well, what I'm trying to get at here is that, in Cardcaptor Sakura, like it or not, watched it or not, some more than others. Sakura was a character. Sauron was a character. They had traits.
So
and
now...
here, Sauron is, I guess, the main character of Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicle. And Sakura is his love interest, and this is basically the only role she seems to have.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm getting at here is that I don't know why someone who liked card captors would feel anything but insulted by this. Because here's Sakura, right? The plucky heroine, she had all sorts of she was a protagonist. She has no agency in this. She barely has a personality in this besides how into Sauron she is.
If I get specific about the no agency thing, because I guess I should summarize this a little.
Sure.
She falls under a plot spell where she falls into a coma a la, I don't know, Sleeping Beauty, Beauty and the Beast.
She loses her memories too, I think it's mentioned.
Yeah, she loses her memories.
They do tell us this.
And her
they do not like to show it.
Switches from generic love pairing 3 to furniture. She becomes a table that he misses having, and he becomes an IKEA tow truck dedicated to carting her from world to world, because he has to go across all the subspace emissary planets or Kingdom Hearts planets or whatever the crossover video game hodgepodge of your choice.
Hey, you remember this? I hope, because you've read everything by Clamp.
Speaking of retro, this one is forcing me into old metaphors, because you don't normally use video games anymore to describe, disparate staple gun together elements. You use them to describe more, I don't know, military wank. But this one is such a throwback in the ways it's bad in a lot of ways that I'm relapsing. I want to make jokes about George Bush instead of the collapsing, State Department. That was back when they had too much pull.
I just cannot get past wondering who the fuck this series is for, because if his two leads are both from Cardcaptor Sakura, right? Probably, arguably, Clamp's... Shit, I bumped the mic. Arguably, Clamp's most famous and well-regarded work, besides maybe Holic.
I think Holic is the Smarks choice.
That's the very patrician film nerd, favorite. Cardcaptor Sakura, right? The favorite, the favorite most popular work by Clamp, and then they do both of these characters so goddamn dirty that it can serve to do nothing but alienate.
If they had made one of these two a sex offender instead of the roles that they end up playing in this, I think it would have shook out better. I feel like I should introduce some of the other elements that we got from our short run of this one.
Yeah, just which continues to add to the whole fan fiction thing. Yeah, it's really fucking...
They've got an RPG party of 5, and if you're hoping some of the core cast are the Holic people you presumably like, if you're hoping for anything positive to happen with this, can I get a secondary raspberry on that? Excellent. Actually, a G major. He was a raspberry flautist back in high school. As I was saying, if you're hoping that anything from Holic, aside from the most cursory...
Hi, it's me, the Dimensional Witch. There you go now. Goodbye.
If she had ran this show's Pokemon Center, I think there would have been more meaningful screen time and dialogue than what we got out of those people in this show so far.
Yo, did you know it took me until, last year until I realized that the third gen, right, the third gen, Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, that the Pokemon Center theme song was not changed for third gen. It's just that it had a whole lot more grace notes in it.
Oh, that's cool. Anyway, you see it's very easy to stay focused on Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicle, as random factoids about third generation Pokemon take place over the summer.
What's interesting about this, honestly, is the fact that it's got so much shit to it, and yet I can barely stay focused on it.
Some of the other so much shit to it. We have Blondie McClosed Eyes. He has a name I can't get wrong, and actually, my minor disclaimer for the rest of my runner on this particular
it's Phi.
show.
Somehow I know that. It's Phi.
Okay, so I'm here with Rain Man, who can retain information from Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicles.
I don't know what the ninja's name is, though.
These are powers.
They say more than the blonde guy's name, Phi's name.
But yeah, Phi is JRPG character 1. His eyes are always closed. He's got that sort of reserved attitude. He carries a Pokemon around with him.
The Pokemon is from Magic Knight Rare. Didn't see it, didn't watch it, didn't read it. I don't know if it's good or not, but it certainly was not very well represented in this. I can tell you that much.
In isolation, the thing is a tumor that walks and talks.
It's like if I wanted to kill the Jigglypuff.
That's more like a Clefairy, I think.
Okay.
So you have a Cancer Jigglypuff. And they are paired with, I don't know, they want it to be their sort of brash, I don't know, maybe a Wolverine archetype would be a good comparison. But there is a character that in studio...
Guts.
In
anime, it's Guts.
Yeah, man-made Guts. Not drawn from a previous series of theirs. But
No, in anime, it's Guts.
In anime, it's Guts. Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay. The point is, they have this character. When they wrote it out, they thought, this is the fan favorite. This is the guy. He's going to get the people who aren't into the love plot through this love plot.
No.
They are wrong. They are very wrong. They are tragically wrong. They are Shakespeareanly wrong.
It's this thing where I'm no stranger to the creative process, right? I get how ideas kind of come about. Sort of, oh, this would be cool. Oh, that'd be cool. Oh, it would fucking rule, right?
Uh-huh.
It feels the entire setup to this feels very much like it was thought up one night, at 2 a.m. when the bottle of extended release Adderall is being passed around the room.
Oh, dude, I can see the sticky notes on the wall for this one.
And then it was just sort of pushed out as is, without a whole lot of thought about having any of it make sense or be half decent, or I don't know, maybe we should write these characters instead of just kind of write the outlines for them and sort of hope that the viewers kind of fill them the rest of the way in. We don't. I mean, one of them is just obviously the Fox guy from Bleach, and one of them is just obviously, bargain brand Guts. And that's what I think of their characters. I know that they wanted more distinct from me, but no, that's all they gave me. That's all I can really give them.
If I could use a far crasser and less illuminating metaphor,
sure.
This baby could have really used a C-section, so it could have gotten more air on the way out. Is how it would
Jesus
describe
fucking Christ.
Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicles. And maybe I'll seem like a nicer, fairer human being if I walk you through this a little bit. Because we start in the JRPG Village of Love. It's a fantasy kingdom. If you have the proper nouns for it, I applaud you.
It seems to be some sort of Bronze Age fantasy. I don't really think I'm doing myself any favors by trying to date it or come up with a...
Sorry, Sayuran and Sakura. Never start your main character the same consonant. It'll just fuck your reviewers right up.
Oh, yeah.
Sayuran and Sakura get warp zoned to Holic World after leaving, I guess, her siblings to die for reasons.
Yeah, they do this thing where they introduce the main antagonists very briefly. They are very... I know, it's this dude with a beard or something like that. His
As far as I can tell, his villainous motivation is that he is the least attractive male in this setting.
He seems to have
He's a 7 in
plans.
a world of 9s.
Honest to God, I don't really know why they even chose to introduce him so early, right? Because
it adds nothing.
Because it adds fucking nothing. It sort of would add to the mystery if you didn't really know why all of this was happening. Now we know that it is just some guy who has some fucking lame, nebulous motive or whatever. I don't fucking know. Let's say you remove him, right, entirely from the beginning of this. You know, the some curse manifests itself among
the heartless,
Sakura, whatever, and we're not really sure why.
Master Hand.
Then there's a mystery on top of all of this, and there's something, even small, to find oneself a little bit more invested in, a question to sort of ask, oh, why is this all happening? Who could possibly be behind this? But we know from the get-go who's behind this, and we know them to be an uninteresting, generic anime bad guy who probably wants power or something. I don't know. Like, I could check the TV tropes page, after we're done here.
Yeah, let's not waste the ATP in your cells on that. Like, we are animal-based
I'm
life,
sure
not
he's
plant-based life.
I'm sure he wants power or something, right? Clamps marks. Email me if I got it wrong, but I doubt that I'd get to the end of the series and be at all surprised by, this guy and his motive and his backstory. Maybe he has some sort of reasoning or something like that. Come on. Come the fuck on. Don't fuck around with me like this, okay? Okay.
So, let me describe this stuff this way. I feel like it kind of sounds like there's a lot going on, and let me not misrepresent one of this program's core problems, which is how glacially all of this very basic stuff is happening. Because at first I thought the show was overcomplicated as like a grab bag crossover, but then I realized they were sort of saying everything 3 times. Like, it's a dramatic equivalent of that shit I was saying about Oresuki, like running over the joke twice. They're running over the plot point 4 times.
They kind of have both problems. It is overcomplicated, yes, and they are also over-explaining it too. In a way in which, like, I think I'd understand it better if they explained it to me less. I don't know.
Its primary medium is also semi-animated mouth flapping. You could replace.
Oh yeah, this show looks like shit. This show looks like fucking shit. Like, here's the thing. Credit to Clamp, right? Credit to Clamp. We went back and found, like, the original manga, and it looks pretty good, right? It looks like it's a work that Clamp is known for. They are good artists. And this was just not a good adaptation of their work. Yeah. Everything looks flat and ill-proportioned. There's this space between all the characters' eyes that you could rent out for a billboard. And, they don't move so much. They their mouth flaps. That's the extent of how I want to say 60% of every episode is animated. The extent of the animation for about 60% of every episode is just people flapping their mouths. And after a point, it got so tiresome that I just started being like along to the episode because
it's not endearing.
I couldn't fucking pay attention anymore.
The thing that struck me about that is you are adapting something by people who made their bones, like, as visual artists. Like, they are visually distinguished. Whether or not you like the whole Slender Man high fashion look, that's up to you. Not my thing, but I respect the fact that normally you can see these guys fucking work from orbit, right?
Yeah, no, it's usually very easy to identify a Clamp character design.
And the animation studio that picked this one up just fucking smeared charcoal all over that paper.
No, it looks like, you know who the fuck Sauron looks like? He looks like you fucking...
Sauron looks like every other anime protagonist in history after this.
Well, no, it looks like you took fucking Kira Yamato from Gundam Seed and just, like, put him through a fucking toffee press. No, shit. I'm starting that riff again. Sauron looks like Kira Yamato from Gundam Seed, and they fucking pulled him through a toffee puller.
Oh, it hurts so much.
And the fucking ninja looks like Guts, pulled through a fucking toffee puller, and so on.
He looks like pro Anna Guts, is what I would say.
Yeah.
Like Guts with some real childhood issues he has to work out. Maybe he was
Different-
a model in his youth.
Different childhood issues.
Different childhood issues, like more physically consensual childhood issues, but issues nonetheless.
It kind of does. I don't know how upset the members of Clamp were by this series, but I'm kind of upset on their behalf, right? That they were so amazingly misrepresented by how poorly their art style was adapted. It very much does look like stylization when they are drawing these characters, right? But it just looks like lazy when they are being animated.
Despite having no investment in the property, not even being my kind of thing, like I could imagine myself like dozing softly off during a great deal of my impression of their work. As someone who's been a fanboy of a lot of random shit over time, I could really just imagine having like the crossover thing of my favorite series, like I don't know, Star Wars versus Star Trek or some such space boy nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
And having everything just look like badly animated stands when the action sequences come through. And I could just imagine my fingers just cracking through the fucking plaster in my cheap-ass room wall.
Well, yeah, no, honest to God, this was the sort of same thought that I had. It wasn't the first thought that I had, necessarily, but it was the thought that I had. Remember, like, about a month back or so, when that horrifying looking trailer to the live action Cats, or kind of live action Cats, comes out. Yeah, F. And then I see, then someone on my Facebook page links someone's impassioned defense of like, well, this is different though. And I'm thinking, yeah, it's not like you're wrong, but really you should be pissed off right here, because this is the only thing, like, Cats is this property, right? That like hardcore fucking Andrew Lloyd Webber fans are familiar with it and know a whole lot about it, and maybe a decent number of Broadway nerds, right? These are the people who know anything about it, and that is a very, very small percentage of the population, right?
The most theatrical furries amongst us.
This is Tom Hooper being a fucking moron again. This adaptation is what the world at large is going to think of this property that you have known and you have loved, right? You should be pissed. You should be really fucking pissed.
Dude.
This is how pissed I was at the fucking Green Lantern adaptation.
That is an interesting point. Like, you have to imagine,
from
like,
2011 with Ryan Reynolds. Remember how fucking god-awful that was?
I do, and I like that one goes like, I'm imagining now just theater heads in the middle of Peru. They've always heard fucking rumors about this Cats bullshit, never caught whiff of it. They're saying, okay, let's see how the Americans spin it. Let's see if they've got it. Let's see if this Cats has the juice. And they see the first malformed Sonic the Hedgehog shamble on screen. And they say, why have you done this?
Meow.
And why have you done this to the holy art of cinema, the holy art of theater, the holy art of my eyes not bleeding into themselves?
And so this is how I feel, like, whatever hardcore Clamp nerds there are out there, and I don't know what the number is on them, right? But I don't know how you don't fucking hate this show. Maybe you do. I cannot say that I really took anyone's temperature on this one, and maybe I'm just saying things that have been said before here. But honestly, whenever shit like this happens, whenever an adaptation goes so poorly, and I feel like I'm also giving Clamp a little bit too much credit here too, because you're still working with the same fucking story here.
If I could, slight diversion.
Yeah, go ahead.
But in terms of this being our younger selves yelling at a cloud instead of the threat of the old man yelling at a cloud, this show has a fucking problem that does not happen in the single like core anime as much anymore, which is just the fucking retread episode.
Yeah, we could get into that. So once upon a time, back in the mid-2000s, mostly the mid-2000s, never a show had anything more than 13 episodes in it. Which was most of them at that point. Honest to God, 13-episode anime were kind of rare back in the day. They are sort of the law of the land these days, but usually something got 26. Every now and again, it'd get 50. Sometimes it would be ongoing. It would get like more than 100 sometimes. Very rarely it would get...
Your legendary galactic heroes.
Your Legend of Galactic Heroes, your... I cannot remember if the original Fullmetal Alchemist got 50 episodes or 60, like from 2003.
I can't place that off the top of my head. Yeah, that's a good question.
I just remember myself getting more and more disappointed, like, I don't know, that version of it has a whole lot of fans, but I'm not one of them. Anyway, no, the whenever something had more than 13 episodes, you could be damn sure. No, you can be sure, but you would never be surprised if you found yourself maybe a dozen, 2 dozen in, and all of a sudden you were greeted with the recap episode.
And you just get this sitcom style, married with children, fucking clip show of content and points you've already seen, of moments you've already absorbed, of things that, if you were invested in the show, you already pretty much had committed to memory, but regurgitated at you, like the lunch of a baby bird,
and I guess
gently descending from the sky.
I have to say, this shit doesn't happen that much anymore. Like, credit where it's due.
Yeah. I guess the arc of progress exists. Good job, anime industry. Weeaboos or just external structural forces?
It happens in a show I like, though. They do it in My Hero Academia sometimes.
I mean, okay, Shonen Jump is its own production genre.
Sure.
They will bear that cross upon their back until there is no more desert to walk through.
Oh, I bet that they do it in the first episode of the next season of Demon Slayer.
It's entirely possible. It's going to be really weird in that Dr. Stone shit, since it's basically a Jules Verne story without really intense fights to scroll back on the emotional drive for. It's just people inventing shit in the fucking forest. So yeah, that's the radio you made last episode. There it is. Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicles 3rd episode just loops back on the first. It just cannibalizes them for content like nothing I have seen in some time, and it's kind of nostalgic to be mad at something for that
for
reason.
A recap. But like, here's the thing: it's the 3rd fucking episode, 303, and they've already either A, run out of budget, B, run out of material, or C, run out of any sort of respect for the viewer, that they could have been paying attention. And to be entirely candid here, it was very difficult to pay attention to this show in the episodes leading up to the first recap episode, which is the 3rd one. Not to say that stuff did not happen in this, but they started giving us flashbacks of shit that happened 2 episodes ago. 2 dose.
I wonder, maybe there's a higher purpose. Maybe it's the show's immune system, because they know how poorly they conveyed a lot of the information. Because despite the glacial pace, despite all the retreading, a good 33% of the time in Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicles, you don't know what's happening. How bad is it? I thought the 2 side characters, Guts and Bleach Guy,
sure,
I thought they were from other Clamp things. No. They are original characters for this production. I was not supposed to have prior associations for these 2 characters. It's just fucking incomprehensible.
Original characters.
Donut Steel.
Yes, Donut Steel. Because, like I said, this show plays out like fucking fan fiction. And fan fiction sort of in the sense, the show's attitude too, right? Kind of takes on faith that you've seen everything by Clamp before, like all of it, right? Sort of in the way that, a fan fiction for one particular series sort of supposes that you are familiar with the milieu of that particular series, right? And for a fan fiction, like an actual one, right? On fanfiction.net or whatever the site is these days, I don't know. I guess I can forgive that, right? Because doesn't matter. But for a show, right? Mm-hmm. That is released for people to watch it.
Human beings.
For human beings to watch it. Perhaps human beings who have not consumed Clamp's entire catalog.
Just in case someone scrolling across the channels or stealing your show from the internet because they don't give a fuck, they might tumultuate. Ooh, do we convert some new viewers from this populace? Or do we go tell them to go fuck themselves? With a rake.
This was sort of a thing that I had. I remember sophomore or junior year of high school, and I'm working for the school newspaper, and they send me because I'd been outspoken about it before. They send me to see the second Twilight movie.
Sweet.
And one of the points that I had, one of the things that I was thinking while watching this movie was, man, I don't know what any of these people are talking about. I feel like I'm a guest to the franchise, right? And I certainly was a guest to the franchise. I feel like if I'm a guest to the franchise, the least they can do is help me out here just a little bit.
What they need is the guest equivalent within their medium of the bowl of peanuts that you might put in the lobby for people that don't have to go into the proctologist's office with their father, but they're stuck in the lobby. Maybe a magazine or two.
Well, here's the thing. In fairness, I feel like I might be asking for two conflicting things here. We are on them and on them and on them about how much fucking words people say and how many fucking like flashbacks there are already 3 episodes in. And then I'm also on them for sort of assuming that I am already a Clamp stan, right? And that, this show isn't for me if I'm not, right? But if those are 2 criticisms that I have of this show, if this show feels like it is feeling kind of like a private party.
Damn, I thought the AEW thing is used those fucking words.
Yeah, I was, it is why I said those words, because I was thinking about AEW. It is both a private party and it is
a Dark Order.
Well, no, just that guy who kind of corners you at that private party and goes on and on and on and on about some bullshit that you don't fucking care about. It has somehow it has 2 mutually exclusive problems, right? Mm-hmm. And it still manages to have both of them, even though they should be mutually exclusive. It's actually kind of impressive now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, it's one more extreme flaw away from a hat trick. So let me explain one more extreme flaw. Because when I think about this show and the premise, and what the good version, or at least the goal target version would look like, I'm going to betray my usual complainy roots, or my usual aesthetic priorities, and say it actually is not a script level problem. It might not even be an editing level problem. This is a Clamp Fusion property. These people who have basically slid by, either coasted by or artisanally benefited from, just style all along, and everything looks and feels wooden. This should be essentially a glitzy rock concert of a show, and instead it looks like a cheaply done plank. And so it was dead from the outset, because it wasn't even trying to survive off its script check. Like, it's a flash, it's like a firecracker with no fucking matches. It's just sort of sitting there, and it's just plastic and gunpowder. And there are cool things you can do with plastic and gunpowder, but you have to do them. You have to commit to maybe the police kicking down your door. You have to commit to some jail time and some fines. And this show isn't willing to face those. It doesn't have the money, it doesn't have the investment, it doesn't have the energy, and it can't even do the Furious 7 thing where you're just riding from set piece to set piece or whatever, because everything just looks hollow.
You could make the argument, right, that they were only given a TV budget to do this with, but 2 things. They didn't need to do this. Could have just stuck with the manga and, complained about that. We could have just complained about that.
Also, in terms of the budgeting for this being a crossover by default means that you already know they have an established fucking audience.
Not a huge one, though, if this is the amount of money that they gave them. I actually kind of wonder how much money they gave them. I wonder if they gave them more money than it looks like they did, and they just wasted it somehow. I wouldn't be surprised.
That is salient. So,
but here's the thing. There was 2 things. A, you didn't need to fucking make this show. B, whatever the argument is that they weren't given it, they still fucking made the show, right? So it still happened. I'm still going to judge it on...
You see, as he talks about this show's right to exist or not, I think he's annoyed that we did an episode about the sort of early aughts in anime, and we're not talking about Char's counterattack right now.
That was the 80s.
Ah, fuck me, whatever.
That was 1989.
Dude, I read and watched all this shit like 6 years ago.
No, it looked good though, right? It looked pretty goddamn good for 1989. I kind of wish that Quest Pariah was not a character, but we cannot have everything we want. I feel like there was one more point that I wanted to raise. I'm trying to remember what it was. Oh, okay, so this is kind of a final point right here, and it's small. It's not like a structural problem.
This is the problem with the show that comes in on a silver surfboard and tells you what's to come.
No, it's emblematic beyond problems with animation, problems with the adaptation, immediate flashbacks that might not have been there in the manga, right? There's a problem that this show has that is very well,
typified, codified, embodied.
There we go. Embodied, represented by, the second and third episodes when they arrive in X 1999, right? Which is this, I guess, post-apocalyptic. I don't know. It just looks
Wait,
like
was that supposed to be X1999? I remembered it being way cooler.
TV budget.
Hot damn.
Right?
Dark.
They arrive in X 1999. I'm pretty sure it might be Tokyo Babylon. They arrive in X 1999 and they get into this fight with this gang of silly looking Mohawk dudes.
Fight is a strong noun for what ensued on screen.
Well, here's the thing. It seems like for a second here, we're supposed to take these very incidental antagonists seriously. I can't when you draw them like that. You drew them like that. They look like fucking if Ben Garrison, right, were, around and active in like the early 1980s.
It should be noted for this example, he means when Ben Garrison is not drawing Miss Cortez's feet. In that case, he embraces a virtuosic level of detail representative of a Raphael or Da Vinci.
Well, it's just how he would design a punk, right, of the early 1980s, late 1970s, right?
Yeah.
And these are introduced as antagonists that we're meant to take seriously. Or if we're not meant to take them seriously, then why the fuck are they even there? Because they're not particularly funny, right, as gag antagonists either. If they wanted to, write a joke or two, write a fucking joke or two.
Well, it's where the show gets its philosophical edge from. It sort of reminds you that you have a limited amount of time until you die.
And I spent it watching this.
Lo, ex, behold.
There was more I wanted to say about this, but I'm just more disappointed by this than anything else. Like, there are things that make me angry when I watch it. Like, fucking MILF Isekai made me angry. This just made me confused and sad.
If I were to describe... Disappointment would describe my relationship with it, too. For me, it was a bit more that when I came into it, I didn't think it was going to be good. But I knew it was not going to be good. Kind of a meth trip in Vegas, maybe kinetic energy to it. Like, I heard the multiple world premise, like, okay, so this thing's just gonna be always bouncing from point to point to point to point. That'll at least be amusing in a sort of kinetic Looney Tunes kind of way.
No, but it runs out of fucking air so goddamn quickly.
Yeah, it's a very asthmatic on a treadmill show. What does that mean, the metaphor say? Why can't I do a metaphor I can say in a fucking first grade room without getting fired? It is a very dumb poo-poo pee pants. Unlike, to my eternal fucking surprise, my general impression of our second show.
Oh yeah, this was fun. So here's like backstory, right?
We're gonna name it first or just backstory?
Backstory, yeah.
Cool.
Backstory. This is a show, right, that back when I was concerned with feeling cool and looking cool or whatever, that I would make fun of as sort of just shoujo trash, I guess.
I mean, I think it was very important for me to establish the exact length and width of my genitalia by dunking on this one sight unseen.
Back when I was a believer, right, in the idea that things, for girls were inferior because they were for girls, and this was not begging the question.
Note
right?
The numerous frills, the lack of a machine gun action figure attachment.
Right? This show was always kind of a primary target, right? Because it was about a genre that I never really had too much interest in, right? And it is a very like kind of meta show. It was sort of, kind of having conversations about itself. It seemed very much kind of like it was jacking itself off about like a thing that I thought was not that great to begin with.
In defense of a wide-eyed 17-year-old Dennard Dayle before he found his fortune and started adventuring across the seven seas, it probably is a tall order to expect someone to appreciate a slightly meta take on a genre they didn't engage with in the first place. Like, we're a degree removed from the thing I'm already 3 degrees removed from here.
Sure.
Anyway, we're talking about Oran Host Club. Is that the
Oran High School Host Club.
Basic premise. A young, not ne'er-do-well, ne'er-do fashion, a fashionless freak, a wretch of the sewage exists in this sort of hoity-toity, everything is glossy, flowers, etc.
I would call them a working class hero.
a working class hero, a champion of the proletariat, an Oliver Twist with maybe a little Red Army flavor. Oh, he's doing it. He's tanking it up.
Go ahead.
So this hero of the underclassmen gets roped into a club where 5 rich guys do everything short of selling their bodies. Like, they are these.
It's strange. I've seen a number of episodes of this thing at this point. I'm still not exactly sure what they do.
They sort of elevate that to the level of a gag, though. Like, one guy just keeps changing his story and how they make their money. I think at this point he's either embezzling or funding it himself. Those are the only 2 options. But
what they did is that it is school for the impossibly rich, which looks as much, right? And their purpose, right, is to sit there and be gorgeous and be swooned over by
any accommodating ladettes or lads that might be in observation for some sculpted man booty.
And it is very meta, right? It is very much just a shoujo series, kind of poking fun at both shoujo fans and the sort of thing that shoujo fans, look for in their shoujo.
Like, if you think of the elements of a sort of shoujo thing, visually at least, maybe not so much on the plot front, sort of does its own thing, but visually a lot of the things, like the guys moving in slow motion towards each other, or the sparkly shit, or the long hair or whatever, is sort of cranked up to 10.5 at random intervals for comic effect. But I sort of jumped over the premise level thing where this guy who gets drawn into their club by class warfare is the guy gets drawn into the club by class warfare against his will, turns out is not a guy but the erstwhile, what's your fucking name again? Haruhi. Though Haruhi is a sort of amusingly singular protagonist, particularly from the modern perspective, because
yeah, I think this thing came out in like what, mid 2000s, early 2000s, early to late 2000s, somewhere.
It was ahead of a few curves,
somewhere orbiting 2005. And Haruhi, as a protagonist, seems to describe themselves in the first or second episode as what we would consider non-binary today. I'm not really sure if that was the original intention of the author. But, when approached and asked about it, they described themselves as like, more than a boy and more than a girl. I just kind of think of myself as a person.
Wait, no, they had a way punchier quote for that shit.
It was quite a bit punchier.
It was, I'm going to mutilate this, but she said, and this is while she's in the middle of being fucking extorted, so it's funny.
We can say they in this case.
They're in the middle of getting fucking extorted, so it's fucking amusing.
So it's fun, yeah.
They say, well, to me, the issue of being a boy or girl is below the level of a caveman or something. And our main comic foil, the zeros and ones are sort of bouncing against each other in his head and shattering into 1,000 bites.
As he's sort of just kind of dragged face first through, like a 100 level gender studies course. In about 3 seconds rather than, 4 months.
It's worth pointing out on a premise level that the deuteragonist, secondary protagonist, whatever, Blondie McBlonde Blonde. Deuteragonist in the show is...
His name is Tamaki.
His name's Tamaki, yeah. Tamaki, I guess he's the average of Leonardo DiCaprio and Cartman.
I would give him a little bit more credit than that. He does.
Well, the show has a better spirit than South Park. But...
Certainly, yeah.
But it's someone who, I guess the gag is you just take like someone who has lived their life with the treatment of the idyllic looking, well-to-do sort of shoujo protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
And his ego has created this borderline monster. But, there's still a heart of gold. So the show has its own little conflict or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, that's the thing. This is ultimately not that cynical a show. Or not, rather, I call shows cynical these days when I think of them as just like kind of cash-ins, just trying to make money off of human lowliness. This is a show that does not have cynical attitudes towards people, is what I'm trying to say here. Ultimately, there do not seem to be any particularly terrible people in this show, or at least that we've met so far. Just, very sheltered ones, let's say. Tamaki himself is written not as though he is a bad person, but just as a person who has lived in quite a bubble.
And the thing that's interesting about how this show plays with these elements is the show doesn't pretend towards depth, and it isn't deep, to be honest. Like, if I were to start kicking at its ankles, it's not the smartest fucking show on television.
I would say it has
its moments that's funny, but it's
3 layers.
It's
Just 3.
What it's good at is physical comedy, dramatic irony.
It's got really good shot composition.
And just visual gags.
Yeah. Well, I mean, physical comedy kind of falls under the visual gags.
Alright, so maybe it's just 2 strings. I don't fucking know. I don't know. I'm trying to be nice today because we spent 50 minutes, we normally go 30, we spent 50 minutes punching Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicles in the neck.
That was 50 fucking minutes?
We weren't fans. It might have been 40.
Jesus Christ.
We weren't into it. We weren't into it, buddy. It wasn't drawing times.
No.
We will not be running its fan club. But, honestly, the show's main strength, other than having that weird Gundam Wing thing of being randomly ahead of the curve on some shit, was just, individual gags are strong.
The individual gags are very strong.
It's like having, I don't know, it's like having good punching in a martial arts movie.
Yeah, certainly.
It's what you're there for.
I think if it suffers from one thing, it suffers from the sort of, I don't have a name for it, but it's just a problem that a lot of dialogue-based shows have, which is, first we are in a room talking. Now we are in a different room, still talking. Now we are in a third room, and wouldn't you know it, we're talking again.
Oh, so many Netflix shows are the fucking worst with that.
After a certain point of time, like, yes, I get that, stakes are to be conveyed via dialogue or whatnot, right? But if it becomes apparent to me that it's just been 3 consecutive scenes of people in a room talking, then you've not done quite a good enough job of conveying these stakes, of making me feel excited about what's going to happen next. I'm more just thinking about what has already happened, which has been 2 consecutive scenes and now a third of people in a room talking.
I make a bad habit of doing these episodes before dinner. And whenever a show has this flaw, I almost want to call it dinner's law, because when I start thinking about food instead of your content, and you're not even a bad show, it kind of just shows how much that sort of plays against you when you do that shit, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we did eat prior to watching this, or no,
the third episode.
We actually we did a thing that we don't usually do, just because of scheduling and just stuff. Where we watched the first couple of episodes of this show last week, and we watched another one this week, just to sort of like refresh ourselves on the whole, like the tone, the feel of the show.
And the wildest fucking thing happened because we did that. We watched the sub for the first 2, enjoyed it, fine. We watched the dub, mostly enjoyed it, fine. But the crazy fucking thing is that's basically a Full Metal Alchemist reunion.
Oh yeah, it's a complete transplant of the Full Metal Alchemist cast, kind of in the way that the Hiraka dub is like a partial transplant of the Full Metal Alchemist cast. No, you get everyone in this.
If you are a film student with a lot of stimulants, please feel free to write an AV Club style essay just about this as an alternate universe or fan fiction of FMA. I would totally be down to see that crack reading.
Well, it's I think I was actually around 2009 or 2010 or so. I was actually kind of frustrated with anime dubs. Imagine that. I was actually kind of frustrated with anime dubs because I felt like, Funimation seemed to be, the main option, right? Yeah, I guess there was kind of Genion back in the day. There was kind of the Ocean Group. Neither of them really exist that much anymore.
Were Genion's one doing Blue Gender? Never mind, that's real specific. Fuck that question.
Well, Black Lagoon, certainly.
That's
one of the things I know them for. But all of these various different companies that did dubs, they kind of had their own guys, right? They had folks who were signed pretty much to them. They're kind of like wrestling promotions in that way, right? And so I felt like whenever I watched an anime dub done by Funimation, I was in for the usual suspects. And I wasn't really feeling like I was going to be listening to this character as a character really should have sounded, but really like in the way they could get them to sound, right? Because they had, like, let's say 24 or so voice actors in-house.
In fact, as we defend ourselves against accusations of Old Man X Cloud, a classic romantic pairing, I will point out, hearing that dub really showed me how far the entire anime dubbing process has gotten in a while.
Yeah, no, like, here's the thing. A couple anime dubs these days, gotta tell you, pretty fucking top-notch. I was just talking about Hiraka. Hiraka's got a great fucking dub.
Truly, there are multiple languages which you can watch Bakugo yell.
Well, in particular, Bakugo, right? I feel like the character in the original Japanese, right? His Japanese voice actor just goes all the fuck out. Like, I have to applaud his effort, right? I have to applaud just how much of himself that he puts into it. But the problem is that Bakugo is meant to be a character who is kind of slightly aggressive, unfriendly, kind of antisocial, right? And he sounds like a goddamn psychopath half the time in the original Japanese. In the original Japanese.
Yeah.
In the dub, he does sound kind of aggressive, very unfriendly. Exactly where he should be.
Yeah, they get the petulance quotient.
Yeah, he sounds like a petulant fucking teenager, right? And that is exactly the sort of character that Horikoshi wrote for him to be, rather than screaming monster that he is portrayed as.
Shocker! How can't you believe to chase you to the ends of the earth?
And I'm not trying to put down the original Japanese voice work here, certainly not. But I do feel as though we have raised a very promising new crop of voice actors, for this particular generation.
Yeah, a bit more breadth. By the way, with the dubbing in this,
yeah, and
maybe it's me taking some free points because I just like to get my little little points, my little jokes in. But that's not a problem. You could trace to the manga, or probably could trace it to the Japanese subversion. But the dub has a hilarious problem with the voice acting, where the host club's fangirls all sound like they're 35, and that makes this all sound like a crime.
It's just
like
super
a crime
weird.
that the police need to be involved in yesterday.
I mean, the thing is that everyone involved in this dub was around 35 at the time, I imagine.
True that.
Like, I could go to everyone's fucking Wikipedia page. I'm not going to, but I could. We run into the issue, the fucking, like, Dawson's Creek issue here.
We mostly talked about the fucking main romantic pair in this when it came to the core cast. Want to bump over the other characters?
Yeah, okay.
Actually, you know what? Never mind.
Wait, are we going with, like, the dub cast here? Because, like, okay, so the main character,
I didn't mean the literal voice actor. I just meant the literal characters. Go on.
No, there's not a whole lot of, like, jokes here, except that Vic Mignon is in this, and
yeah, I would say the dude's seen better days, but I guess these are the better days where he can't get away with shit.
Yeah, and there's, like, this one fucking line in the 4th episode when, Haruhi says, "This is sexual harassment, senpai."
Yeah, that dude is canceled like a Blockbuster membership.
Goddamn aged like wine, I gotta tell you.
Mwah. But yeah, the club's other members, you have tall, dark, and handsome. Mostly tall, I don't know. He's paired of this short kid who got sort of a Freak the Mighty thing going on. You ever read that?
Roy and Truth.
Yes, Roy
in
and
the
Truth.
dub.
And I have got to say that the little one is the worst fucking character on this show. Like, Towley tier.
Yeah, I don't like him very much.
Every time he goes on,
sucks.
I think in our viewing,
I see him and I think, man, you suck.
Said the words, "Don't forget to bring a towel," every time that he came on screen. He makes the show worse than it is. I think he's called Honey. Is Honey his name?
Honey is his nickname. I don't know his actual name. I did not.
Would you name your child Honey? It's like naming them Glitter or Cinnamon or Twerk. You're sort of setting them on a course.
I would neither name my child Honey, nor would I try to propagate the nickname of Honey.
Yeah, in fact, you
that,
might get
that's okay as like
for
a pet name that one half of a couple calls the other half of a couple, but. If it's just like something that everyone calls you, I don't fucking know.
It's cloying.
It sounds kind of weird.
And weird, like the character of Honey, whose goal, as far as I can tell it, is to show that lolly fixation can be projected across all genders and orientations.
That's the strangest fucking thing, right? Because like I'm familiar with the lolly fetish. I'm also familiar with the Shota fetish, right? And oddly enough, the Honey is written and drawn and, voice acted and all the rest of it very much like as though to appeal with someone with the loli fetish. It's strange. I'm not really sure what to make of it.
If among the weeaboos listening to this, there is someone with a really strong complet or media studies background that also happens to be a sexual deviant that could really unspool this one for us, feel free to like email me that one. I'm all ears, or eyes in this case.
I don't know. This character just rubs me the fucking wrong way. It seems very much like one of those like the thing that I had that was a problem with MILF Isekai or with Azure Lane, where it's so shameless. The fact that you're annoyed by it means that you're missing the point. No, I get it. I get what you're doing. It still feels kind of fucking weird, guys.
It's like the defensive cover that a bad punk band loses. It's not about knowing how to play your instruments, man, or being in tune, or not peeing on the microphone. It's about the raw authenticity. Yeah, that is rawly, authentically fucking annoying. If I could jump back to the positive.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's just an intuitively funny joke to me, but pretty much every time... Actually, no, you could easily do this poorly. I just liked all the "look at how the pores live" comments that all the guys kept dropping on that.
No, I have to tell you, they were good. I think at one point in the first episode, they treat instant coffee like it is a book of Jacob Riis photographs.
Great.
And one of them mentioned,
"You might die.
If I drink it, my father will be mad at me."
It's fucking great.
I'm not really sure what point there is to make beyond that, but it was well done.
Cycle back to the dub for a second.
Sure.
The opening song, I was like neutral to it in the sub.
Oh yeah, well,
dub,
it is a pretty famous song. It is "Kiss Kiss Fall in Love." There are a whole lot of weebs out there. A whole lot of I guess these days would be considered OG weebs. Just
if you've
because,
been to a wedding between two people who are virgins before they met each other, you've heard "Kiss Kiss Fall in Love." Wow. Okay. New meanest metaphor of Weeaboo Hell, I guess. I'm just topping myself all the time.
If you've been to a wedding when the bride and groom were dressed like something other than a bride and groom, you've probably heard "Kiss Kiss Fall in Love."
If you have been to a wedding where the bride and groom are dressed as characters from not the same anime series, but two different anime series, you've heard "Kiss Kiss Fall in Love."
Okay, I could go back to being somewhat of a decent human being now.
Fine. The dub of that song is really fucking amusing.
They also chose to dub the song, which really dates this fucking series because they stopped trying to do that a while ago.
Which is almost unfortunate because I think we need more One Piece pirate raps in this world.
Wait, they didn't entirely stop trying. I mean, the Pokemon anime still exists, and I'm pretty sure they still dubbed that.
Yeah,
right?
They struck enough of a profit vein the first time. They're fucking covers of that thing out the ass now.
What network does that air on anymore? It's not Kids WB. That doesn't exist. Does it air on Cartoon Network?
I think CW11 still runs weeb shit in the mornings. This is a great question.
I need to check with this. Yeah, no, I don't know where, 4Kids ask, the sort of stuff that 4Kids would have gotten its claws into. I don't know if 4Kids is still around. Who dubs Pokemon now? Is that still 4Kids? Are they still a thing?
I don't know. Is Nintendo and Game Freak just
4Kids
massive enough at this point to deal with their own dubbing issues?
4Kids is thought of as this Enron-esque company, right? That ruined everything. Does 4Kids still exist? Give me a sec.
Kiss, kiss, fall in love.
No, 4Kids was defunct as of 2017. I don't know who does Pokemon now. I don't know who dubs it now. That's an interesting question. I'll have to look that up. I'm not going to do it now because
I think given that the elements of Pokemon are sort of just dragging elements that have been used before into new permutations, you could probably have a decently qualified voice actor freestyle over the content. And
fucking Ghost Stories style.
Ghost Stories, MXC, all that kind of thing, yeah.
Oh fuck! One of these days we're doing a Ghost Stories episode.
Hell to the fucking yeah! We're doing a Ghost Stories episode.
God, that ruled.
Would we pair that with Duel Masters, whatever.
Duel Masters, I think.
Yeah.
Leave and never insult my sideburns again.
Anyway, if you want to see homoeroticism distilled into an effective comic form, Oran Host Club isn't a bad experience.
It's honestly pretty fun in how subversive it is.
It's subversive. The jokes are fast and furious.
Sometimes you kind of get a little bit bogged down in the words. Usually they keep it fast paced enough that you don't. But like, I think the biggest point against the series is the fact that there tends to be words sometimes.
Yeah. But yeah, fun ride throughout.
I'm trying to think if I've got like an end cap on this. I don't think that I do. So I think. Oh no, hold on. I think like one of the funniest sort of not meta level gags, but just sort of macro level gags of the series is the fact that you've got this entire club propagated on how like on all these fangirls who are into the whole homoeroticism thing, right? And then here comes Tamaki, who is secretly aggressively straight.
Yeah,
and that is almost a twist.
Borderline criminal straight. It's kind of great. Do you remember PC Principal from South Park? And his end gag ended up being Pussy Crusher Principal. He is the homoeroticism version of that. Well, he's a guy who looked at a GQ photo shoot of the Queer Eye staff and said, "Yo, guys, here's we're gonna crush some ass."
guys, this could change everything. I know what we're gonna do.
Anyway, this has been Weeaboo Hell.
It's Weeaboo Hell.
I am Dennard Dayle, aka defunct nickname.
I am Sam Lagow. Usually, my nickname tends to be Attack Simple. That's just my handle that I use for everything gaming wise. In case you wanted to know.
Thank you for listening.
Ages ago, it was Ice Farmer.
Peace.